And it's a go. Welcome again. We have our session again on the trainers. What we have this session is that we're going to be looking at week 2 activities. The process of, again, reminding people to send the daily messages, to monitor the participation of the students. This is the second week, and this is an important week because if somebody is behind the training, that means that probably that person will not be able to catch up and will be able to complete the course. We'll also look at the discussions forums for that week, grading the forum participation. I'll give you some additional guidelines, and also on the graded exercise and sending feedback, and then monitor the grades. This is the week then people will be completing most of their work, so they're going to be getting very close to getting the passing grade and completing the requirements. What we have in the sessions are practically our website. I'm gonna turn it on right now so we can look at our online course. That is week number 2. The topics for that week are the monitoring, the evaluation, and the learning. Those are the 3 elements of the DMNE cycle. And what we have in those sessions in that week is activities 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, which are the presentations. That is the context of the material that they will be able to have an understanding. Again, we have a discussion forum and an exercise and a folder with some reference material that you can use during the forums or guide them if somebody needs additional information. So what do we have in the content of our presentation videos on lesson 4? There is this phase on project monitoring, which is a very important one. People are going to be learning about the phases, what happens during the project monitoring, the elements of a good project baseline, some discussions about what is a baseline, or sometimes why you need to have good indicators and the data that will allow you to monitor the changes of the project as you start making progress, and the idea of monitoring the indicators to help you evaluate whether or not the activities and the inputs that you're doing are creating the type of outputs on the project. And then there's a final discussion on the information management cycle in terms of how we manage the information we are gathering, we're collecting, we're analyzing, storing, and then reporting. That is the content of the project monitoring on lesson 4. On lesson 5, then, there's an introduction on the evaluation process, types of project evaluations. There are discussions about internal evaluations, external evaluations, summative evaluations, and formative evaluations. There's also a presentation on the evaluation terms of reference that most of the people involved in managing projects or involved in the projects will be in charge of creating the terms of reference to hire an external consultant to do the internal or the final evaluation. And then the evaluation report provides some guidelines in terms of what should be the minimum content. And one specific element is highlighted, the idea that the report contains a lot of action items that the team needs to put into action, especially when you have a midterm evaluation, but also at the end of the evaluation, there are some actions that the organization will need to take on responsibility. So we present that concept. The final lesson is on project learning. There's an introduction on the process. The practice of reflective practice is presented in the sense that provides people with the understanding that as we start making progress in our project, we should be always and constantly looking about what is going on. Are we achieving the goals that we plan to achieve? Are there any changes? And reflect on that situation and see what we can improve. Are there any opportunities for us that we can see that some indicators may not be producing the results that we want? Are there any changes we need to make in the approach, in the schedule, in how we're managing the project? And out of that comes all of our lessons learned. And the message here is that those lessons learned, they need to be incorporated during the life cycle of the project. It's not something that happens at the end of the project that eventually becomes a document that nobody reads, but it's a living document that should inform the project while they're making progress. And the idea is that a 2-year project, for example, may have maybe 4 sessions every 6 months where the team will get together, look at what happened, capture some of the lessons they learned in the approaches, in the methodologies, in the way they communicated, in the way they manage the project, and then apply those lessons in the next phase, in the next 6 months. So eventually they apply those lessons and they become part of the improvements that the project is being able to get. So that is the key lessons in terms of the project learning session. The discussion forums then, based on that information and the additional lectures that the students will have, your responsibilities as a facilitator will be post the questions from the list of questions that we have available, provide them again feedback to the answers to the students, rate each of the answers using the STAR system, grade and the forum rubric and some guidelines that are available in the course. Then you can post additional questions as needed, depending on the dynamics of where you see people moving. You have the questions available to you, and you can create different threads for each one of those questions. And also they need to provide comments to the answers that people are posting. That's a way to keep them motivated, to let them know that you're engaged in the course, that the instructor is providing some guidance and motivating again to all the students who are part of this course. The forum instructions are clear in all of them. They give you an idea, and the students that they have an idea of what they need to do, and also the rating in terms of what is expected of them. Here's an example of the 3 discussions that were posted on the course and the number of replies that each one is having. So ideally you can even start having a question based on the type of phase you are moving, maybe on monitoring and an evaluation and another one on learning. That is up to you. But the idea is that you create these discussion topics during the week. You start on Monday, the first forum, you give people 2 days, then you can have the other one on Thursday, and the last one you can have it on Friday. That will extend to the end of the week, and people will be able to catch up and start looking at it. Again, the idea is that you provide them with opportunities where they can demonstrate that they understand some of the key concepts, that are able to apply that knowledge in answering the questions. These are some of the discussion forums that we have for that week. The question again is focusing on that phase in the monitoring. The question says, while monitoring the project, as a project officer, you notice there is a budget surplus at the end of the project. What action steps will you need to take to address this issue? And I think that is a typical issue that we have in many projects. It's not only to the organization, but it reflects some of the challenges that we have when people look at the budget and they always end up with a budget surplus. That means that at the end of the project, you did not do a good job in monitoring and looking at your budget and your activities and trying to see how you can then start closing that gap. So the idea that you need to plan for it. So you need to monitor, plan how you're going to use it, match what you're doing, and then anticipate any changes. Those changes are going to be coming in terms of maybe there are activities that are being eliminated or postponed or reduced, or the initial estimates of how long and how much it's going to take you is started to change. And then discuss with donor possible options. That means that even before the project is ending, you have enough time to look at your data, you look at your budgets, and then you can provide them with alternatives. And maybe we can add more sessions or more training or more material or more services to the community because you already have the available money, and not wait until the last day where you're trying to rush and try to do something, and then the worst thing happens when you need to return money to the donor. So that will be the type of situations you have in these discussion forums, and then you guide them. A lot of that is happening, and then you're going to find people that have the experience, and they say, yes, this happened to me. We had a situation like that. It was very difficult, but this was a solution. And when you see that, highlight that. Use that answer, that good answer, to guide people to the discussions and post comments to that answer. That's a way to reinforce some of the messages that we need to get into the course. The other question that is available is in terms of the evaluation. You need to conduct an evaluation for your project, which should be the 3 most important components of your evaluation plan. So what are those components of the evaluation plan? Terms of reference need to be agreed by the donor. Identify the evaluation team. There is relevant methodology to support the process of the evaluation. And final, there is another one that I could even say is even more important, but there's a budget. So these are 4 options that you can look at the answers to see if they are responding to that. There might be other ones depending on the type of situation people be on the project, but ideally that will be the kind of elements that should be part of an evaluation plan, and they should be at least represented in some of the answers of people. Whenever you see people not responding to these elements, you can even use that answer and say, do you think the terms of reference needs to be agreed by the donor and all the contributors? Do you think that is important? So you can even use some of these answers as questions to the team. You can also say, do you think it's important to have a budget? And people will say, yes, oh yes, we forgot, it is important to have a budget. So you can use a lot of that material also to start driving some of the conversations that you have in the forum. The third question is on learning. The organization is committed to learning. How would you ensure that, according to the monitoring efforts and the evaluation informs your work, ensures that we're doing the right things to the organization to achieve the anticipated outputs established in the project? So the idea is that how we learn, how we apply those lessons that we are getting from the monitoring and the evaluation. The idea is that people are identifying throughout the life of the project. We mentioned that in the videos. There is knowledge exchange or lesson learned, so it's not silo approach. It's not just to the unit. It is the opportunity to learn also for what other projects are doing that might be similar to do, and start to reach out to other projects or people and get an opportunity to exchange some of those lessons. You can give them, you can share them. This is what we're learning. What are you learning? So there has to be those opportunities. Ideas and best practices are always part of the environment that needs to happen within a project if they want to be committed to learning. And the institutional memory of the organization, donors, and other counterparts that are capturing that information that needs to be used. So an organization that's committed to learning will usually have these kind of characteristics. And you will see in the answers to this question is that, yes, we seem to know the why, but we have challenges on the how to do it. And usually that happens because we tend to be rushing to end the project and start the next one. So there's very little time to reflect, very little time to learn, very little time to share that knowledge. And that needs to be embedded. So the idea is that if you plan for it at the beginning of your project, when you're planning the activities, plan some spaces in the project every 3 months or 6 months where you can then have those sessions, capture those lessons learned, apply them to the project, and share them with other people in the organization. So that is a behavior that we can then start promoting within the course and the students, that there is a big value in terms of that asset, that institutional memory that organizations is constantly capturing, but it's not usually applied to new projects or applied to the current project. So that's an opportunity for people to understand the value of lessons learned. It's not necessarily a document that we send to the donor or to management, but it's a document that needs to be applied in the project. The other question, and this is a little bit more about the procedures of the organization, says, a grant has expired at the due date for submission of the final financial reports is looming. Several country offices and technical areas still have obligations pending in their allotments. What is the correct course of action? What steps would you take? So it's asking people if they are following some of the procedures that the organization already has in place. So the answers will be on the follow-up on the payments, identify deadlines, consult implementations. The idea is that you're going to see a lot of people reacting to this question because it probably happens a lot in those situations. And they need to make sure that they follow the procedures. Always ask them, so what are the policies that we have in place? How do we know that we're doing the right things? So that's an opportunity to let them know that many times we forget to do our job because we don't necessarily do a good follow-up on the plans that we have in place or understanding of the policies that are in place to help us manage these situations. We are, in many cases, can be expensive for the organization in terms of managing grants, and whenever they are additional expenses that occur to a grant that has expired, and then you have all these accounting problems. So that's another question. There are some extra questions that you can use them. It's part of the document that you will have in the course. It's already on the folders that we have in the course right now, where you have the Train of Trainers folder. And these questions are up to you in terms of how you want to use them, depending on where the project is. In terms of using the project concept, in terms of using the control groups, or the use of the baseline data and the responsibilities for internal evaluations of the project. They are up to you. You can add more questions and you can create your own list of questions that you can use. And eventually, as you start building that practice in the course, you're going to start finding out the questions that resonate more with your audience. It's part of the organization. Some organizations have different issues and problems. Once you find a question that resonates a lot and that creates a lot of discussions and opportunities for people to learn, then you take that question and you make it part of your list. Other questions, people will not be able to respond, or they might find that it's not too relevant to their situation. Then you need to delete it and you don't need to use it. And that is the process you're going to be start finding when you're facilitating the courses. You have those core questions that will help you guide it, but you can then supplement additional questions when you see that the forum is kind of quiet or there's nothing happening. You can add some additional questions to start getting people into thinking about how you can solve that. It's always good to have a question posted. People are always challenged to answer it. It's an opportunity for them to share their experience and their knowledge, and also other people may also benefit a lot from reading the answers and the experience that other people are sharing. This is also part of the grading guides that you have. This is posted in the course, in the guideline learning. When you put 5 stars, somebody will get an excellent, means 100 points. That means that the answer is correct and provides additional information or examples. That's the key word there. They are providing something additional. So it's a good answer. They provide all the correct answer to that question, but they also provide something extra, like an example, or maybe even they can make a reference to something that happened in another discussion, but they try to provide more to that. So that will be a type of answer that you give them an excellent. Very good, the answer is correct, they don't share anything, they meet the requirements, they did all the work, that will be very good. Good answer, it's something that it is good, it can be improved, maybe it's a little bit too short, they just try to do it, answer the questions in a brief manner. It is good, but they can be improved. Incomplete, the answer is incomplete, maybe they just wrote a sentence, or the answer is not correct, they made a mistake, so that will be the type. Like I said before, most of the time you're going to be using the gradings 5, 4s, and 3s. The exercise actually the exercise number 2 is the students will submit their work before Sunday at midnight. You will need to download the exercises, provide them feedback, and grade each exercise with a rubric. The second exercise, the questions are these. They are again available in the course. Let me check if I have my document, and I forgot to do that. But I'm gonna look at the courses, and let me open my Word document. And I think here it is. There it is. These are the questions for the second exercise that will look at lessons 4, 5, and 6. There is the question about the monitoring plan and the issue with indicators in the logical framework. So they're asking to list 3 characteristics of a good indicator. So they will list those 3 lists. They might even sometimes provide some additional answers, and that will give them an extra point. The second question, the grant coordinator is trying to convince key stakeholders on the importance of having a monitoring plan. What are your arguments to support the benefits of monitoring the project? So people will have a good paragraph describing what are the benefits of a good monitoring plan. The third question is that there is a budget for an assessment, but some of the team would prefer to wait until the end of the project for a final evaluation. So it's asking is that, do we need an internal assessment or internal evaluation? Can we just wait until the final one and don't bother us with all that extra work. So the idea is that what kind of advice you can give, that there is a value on internal evaluations. So the first one was the values of a monitoring plan, but also what is the value of an internal evaluation? An internal evaluation usually is done either by people within the organization that can look at the project and then provide them with some feedback about what is happening. So there's some opportunities to improve before the end of the project. Number 4, what is the process of reflective practice can empower the project team? Can you give some examples? And this is discussed in the presentation videos, and the idea is that providing people, the team, with opportunities to question the project, to reflect on what is going on, provide ideas, and then apply those ideas into the project. It provides them with a level of empowerment and ownership on the project that is very, very positive. That means that people feel that they have a voice in the project, that if they see something wrong, they can then provide solutions and ideas to correct it. And that is part of the empowerment that the team receives. So the project manager has to have that ability and flexibility to motivate the team to provide answers to the solutions. He's not responsible for all the work that needs to happen, but the team also needs to be involved in the definition of the situations and identification of problems and the definition of solutions. And the next question looks at the lessons learned, the idea of a workshop, resistance from project stakeholders, that the lessons learned is going to be more focused on the negative elements. What information, how can you assure that the stakeholders that the lessons learned is not going to be focused on negative aspects, but it's going to be a positive? So here again, the idea is to reinforce the concept that the lessons learned workshop, when you bring the team and key stakeholders, the idea is to find opportunities to improve. And so what we learn is it's not a time to find blame or find only the negative areas. Lessons learned also means finding the things that went very well. Maybe there was an opportunity for a change or a new approach that worked very well with the project and the team, and they were able to get better data from the indicators or better outputs. And that's a lesson. They learn something that they can then apply in new projects. So that's an opportunity to improve. So the focus of those sessions and the way they communicate people to the stakeholder, that is that it is going to be focusing more on what we learn and what we can improve, and not on trying to find blame or trying to find the problems on the project. Number 6 and number 7, the question on the grant coordinator and the lessons learned and how they can be used for future projects, and what kind of risks can be minimized by applying lessons learned from our projects. Here the idea is that whenever you're starting a new project, the good practice, the best practices in project management says that you should look at our previous projects. Has anybody done a similar project like the one I'm planning to do in the past? What are the lessons? Can I contact somebody? Is there a project manager still in the organization or people that work? I need to talk to them. I want them to let me know what happened, what things I need to be aware of, what risks I need to understand, so that then I can plan for them in my project. So that is the main message behind this question, is that how we apply those lessons in any future projects, by looking at the lessons, by trying to find out the information from that project, maybe their assessments in terms of the estimate I'm sorry, estimates on the duration of the project were not that correct. And the bonus question, number 7, list of things that you found in the discussion forums that are interesting and useful for you. That's a question that what I'm trying to do with that question is that people are going to be reading on the forum, and they're going to always find something that is like, yeah, what Maria said here or what John said that was very useful. I didn't know about that, or I learned something new. And they start writing that. The process that they can remember and they can write it reinforce what they are learning. That's another trick in terms of making sure that people have a good understanding of the discussion forums, what they learn, but when they want to reflect on the questions asked them, do you remember something that you learned in the discussions forums? They will remember it, there was a special conversation about something about monitoring. And they say, yes, I remember that, and they will write it down. They will write it down, and that creates a reinforcement in their memory about that lesson. So that reinforces the process of learning. What I do sometimes, and it's up to you, is that from all the exercises that are coming from the course and in that session, I collect a lot of those. I copy and paste in a document, and then I post it into the forums or as a document. I say, based on the feedback and the answers on your exercises, this is a list of the most interesting things that you find useful in the discussion forum. So you can have maybe 10 things that you see that, and some of them are going to be, a lot of people are going to be repeating something that was very interesting, and they will repeat that. And you can use that as an example, and people will read that. They will say, oh, yes, I remember that Maria said that, or John said that, and yeah, that was an interesting thing. And that's another element. That's part of how we are even capturing lessons during the learning process, as we can then make the best value of that conversations we had in the discussion forums. Very good. I'm going to change my screen back to my presentation. The grading guide for the exercises is from 90 to 100. Excellent, your work is complete and you provided more than it was asked for. 80 to 89, very good. You meet all the requirements of the exercise and your answers are all correct. 7 to 79, it's good, but needs more work. Some of your answers are incomplete or not correct. And 0 to 69, the exercise is not correct and you need to submit it again. Ideally, you will be able to identify those grades when you start looking at the exercises from the different students. You're going to see somebody who has reading like a very good solid paragraph explaining, and they have a good comprehension. That will become your model. That is your top grade. And then I use that as a way to compare how the rest of the class is doing. So it's kind of grading on a curve. The idea is that you have good examples of people who are doing the right job, and then you use that to compare how everybody else is kind of matching to that. What I do also, and I mentioned that yesterday, is that I grab those one or two of those very good exercises that they got an excellent grade. I delete the name and I post them on the course as examples so that people can see what was a good exercise. And people download that because a lot of those answers, because they are related to their job they do, to how they deal with situations on their day-to-day work in terms of the monitoring plan, they provide them with additional information about what needs to be done, how is the right way to do certain elements. So that is another opportunity to provide them with additional material that they can learn. Very good. Let me go back to what we have on the discussion on our work for this day. Okay. We're going to look at now our week, and on the module 2, where we have our discussion forums and the exercise, I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at the reference material that we have for weeks 1 or 2. The reference material are in that folder. When people click on it, they will have access to a list of basic information. The English and the Spanish are almost the same. There's very little differences, but these are the documents that are available. From my perspective, one of the best reference materials is the one from the United Nations Development Program. Is the Handbook on Planning, Monitoring, and Evaluation for Development Results. That is a very good and comprehensive. It provides a lot of information, and it's very good in terms of explaining some of that. So you can use that as your handbook for the course, that is, or as a reference. All the others are documents that provide you some elements that people will read it, will download it, will find them useful. It's opportunity. If you want to change anything here, for suppose that tomorrow's or during this session somebody says, I found an excellent book, and they send you the copy, you read it, you think, yeah, this is a good reference material, we should make it part of the course. Look below, down here there is an edit button. You click on it and it allows you to make any changes you want on that folder. So you will see all those documents. There are PDFs. That way they're not that big. You can add by clicking here on the add button a new document. It will ask you for to choose a file. You click on choose a file. I will, just for play, I'm gonna just take one of these pictures, open, and then you upload the file, and now it's gonna be available in the folder. You click save the changes, and now that document or file will be part of that folder and will be listed. You want to delete something, you click edit again. It will take you back to that list. But this time you click on the icon of that document and it will tell you want either to download it, if you want to download a copy, or delete it. You can also change the titles or the names right here. You click delete, click OK, save changes. Now that document is no longer in our folder. So this is a place, it's kind of the course library. You can make reference to those documents. I recommend that before you start the course, you try to browse this library. My recommendations are, again, is on that handbook from the UNDP. There is, at the bottom, there is some good guidelines on how to complete a log frame, the logical framework. Those are very good for that design phase of the project. Let's go back and look at the reference material that we have for the second week. It's the same type of structure. You go to the second week, here's the reference material, you click on it, and you will see now a list. These are documents that focus more on monitoring, evaluation, and you have a lot of these documents. There's one good one on baseline studies. Again, I recommend it. The good practice in development of indicators and monitoring systems from the ODI is also a very good document. Again, if you have some time to browse the content of this material, just to become familiar, eventually you're going to use them as a guide to the students during the week. In each one of the weeks, you can tell them, don't forget to go to the reference materials. We have some good references that you can download. I recommend, for a specific case, you can recommend go look at the risk matrix, for example, how to develop a risk matrix. That's part of the planning part of the project, and how you can use it to help you manage your project, or the principal monitoring areas of your project. Then once you become familiar, you can use them as a way to guide people whenever they're having problems or challenges, or just to reinforce certain key messages. During the discussion forums, that's what I do. I tell them, I respond to an answer or to a comment, and I tell them, can you think about anything special about what would be the important monitoring areas? And people will have a challenge maybe. I think I say, look at this document that we have on the reference material, and you can add a link or attachment to the forum so that people will be able to then download and make the connection with that question or that discussion forum. Those are the two folders that we have available. They are reference material that is kind of a library available to the course. I notice that people like to download all of those and read them, but it's important if you guide them a little bit in terms of what are the important documents that they should focus on. Again, my preference are on the documents that I have there. I have maybe a collection of maybe 500 documents on monitoring and evaluation, and these, from my perspective, are the most relevant. Most important because they are also similar and they have a translation in Spanish. Let me go to the Spanish version for a moment, and we're going to be able to see that we have the same, but there's a little bit of a difference. In some cases, I was able to find the document that was from the same organization in English and Spanish, or even French. And sometimes I couldn't find something from the same organization, but I found the same concept, maybe explained by another article or organization. So here's the Spanish version. You see, you have the UNDP, that's the Spanish version, so that will help. And all the other documents are also coming from, most of the time, the same organization. You'll see the name of the organization is repeated in some of them. The same thing happens on the Spanish for week 2, material referencia. And there you are, you have those documents. It will be 1 or 2 or 3 different ones, but the idea is that both courses will have the same access to the same volume or good materials that you can use as reference for the courses. Very good. One of the things that you need to do in week 2 is start monitoring your participants, because as I mentioned at the beginning, if they are late now, it's going to be very difficult for them to catch up. So if you start looking at your list of participants like this one, and you see they never accessed the course, or they never were able to even register or access any one of the forums, that person is going to be too late, and that person is not going to be able to complete. In the pilot, we gave a lot of flexibility to people who were a little bit late or who couldn't participate. It was a pilot. But as we go into our first official course, we're going to need to build a little bit of more discipline and certain rules that, for example, if you are not able to join the course after the first week, you're not going to be able to continue with the course, and you're going to be unenrolled from the course. And the idea is that if somebody is trying to catch up, they're not doing a favor to themselves, because the idea is not just to click on the activities and get a certificate. The idea is that you learn in an environment with your peers, with your college, and you start sharing, you start collaborating with solutions and ideas, and that is the main purpose of the learning process. And if people try to catch up later, our recommendation for them is that please join the next session, and we can have a calendar where people then will be able to register. And second, you don't want to start working on somebody whose exercise is already a week old, and you have to go back and do that grading of the forums, grading of the exercise. Is not even fair for you. So we'll place a special policy at the beginning of the course that if you don't join the course and you're 5 days late, then you're gonna be unenrolled from the course, and your name's gonna have to, you're gonna have to wait for the next session to happen. So that is the kind of situation you will find on, especially when you log in your week 2, you activate the course for the second week, and you look at your participants. You find 2 people who haven't logged in yet, then your step is to send them a message. We're sorry, but the rules are very clear. You're going to be enrolled. Please wait until the next session. And they will have no argument, because that is the reality. And it's also unfair for other people who've been trying hard to keep the course on time and doing all the work on time. So that's one of the areas that you need to put a little bit of pressure and draw the line in terms of how we're going to be managing the course. Look at the grades too, to look at people where they are in terms of their activities. I'm looking right now at the wrong course. I'm going to go back to my example. Let's look at the course report, course completion status. You see this module on the right side. That is the course report that every student has access to it, and you also can see it from there. So it's looking at how people are progressing to the course. We saw that on Tuesday. Here's the list, and tells you who is ahead, who's doing their work, and who is not doing it. So that's another way to look at where they are, where people are maybe missing some activities, especially the dotted line, which are the ones that need a grade. The solid ones are the ones that don't need a grade, but people may click on it or not. But the important ones are the ones that are dotted lines. See where they are and where they are behind. You can then send them messages, like at the first one, you can say, Maria, I noticed that on activity 2.4 discussion forum, you haven't done your work. And they might say, oh, sorry, I forgot, and they try to catch up. The other one is that in some of these activities, people are going to be late on the forums, So on week 2, during that weekend, people might be doing a lot of work, going to the forums, trying to answer, trying to complete the requirements. And when you see this, there are two things: that they didn't complete it or you didn't grade it. So go to the forum, you can click right on that icon for the discussions, and it will take you to that forum, and then you can find out if Maria posted a question or not. So you click on the forum, and you try it, and then to grade the answers from Maria. That in this case, she didn't post any questions, so there is nothing to grade. That's another message that you need to send at the end of week 1 and end of week 2 to make sure that everybody is able to go to the forums and update. You're going to be receiving emails from the system when somebody posts a question, so that's another way to remind you that there is a new post and you need to grade it. So you just look at your email, you're going to see there's a couple of emails coming from the system telling you that somebody posted a forum. You will see the answer. You can click on the icons of the email. They will take you to the course, take you to the specific forum and a question, and then you can grade or post your comment to that. So that's another feature that the system has for facilitators that allows you to manage all that process. In the grades, also start looking at how people are progressing. You can also send them a reminder by the end of week 2 to let them know where they are in terms of their grades. You can look at all the grades, and some people may be a little bit behind, so that they're not going to be able to have the time to complete all their answers. So it's important that you look at their grades, where they are. So you tell them, hello class, don't forget to look at your grade report to look at where you are in your grades. Make sure that you complete all the activities. Maybe they are a little bit late on the exercise and they need to complete. So make sure that the people are completing their work according to the schedule that was planned. Hopefully by the end of week 2 and starting week 3, everybody was able to complete all those mandatory activities, and they are working on the final exercise. So technically, people will be in a good position to complete the course and get the minimum grade needed to pass it and get the certification. Let me go back to our structure, and we have here in our course. Tomorrow, we're going to look at the final components of the closing activities, the final exercise on the case study, the evaluation survey, some of the feedback and information that we get from them, and how we need to use it, the application and the use of the coaching forum, and when people get the course certificate, once they complete all those assignments and they get the required grade, the system will allow them then on their profile to download it. So we look a lot of that, some of the closing process, some of the closing messages that are available as part of the closing activities. Very good. I have some work for you. If you have some time today or tomorrow to become familiar, to become familiar with the forum questions that I posted on the course. We have all the questions. Also familiar with the 2 exercises and the grading system. And then tomorrow we'll wrap up all our sessions. We complete this first phase of the Train the Trainers. Remember that this is more about the theory, more about the concepts of what is in the course, so you have a complete understanding of the course, the structure, the process. And when we do the first course, that will be the second phase of Train the Trainer. So because we're going to be now working on a live course, and we're going to be going through the motions for those 3 weeks, and are going to be supporting and providing guidance and to the person who's going to be doing the first facilitation, but the other facilitators will be joining us behind the scenes. They're going to be able to log in into the course, and then we're going to have a forum where we're going to be discussing some of these the process and the process of getting through the course of those 2 sessions. Very good. Any questions at this moment? I hope you're not sleeping or just left me alone. Right. When you see on the question on the exercise, this one, you have about 6 questions, right? So more or less what I do is that if somebody answers all those questions correctly and I see they have a good grade, I give them 100. If I see one question that is kind of weak, I take away maybe 10 points or 5 points. That's what I do. So I start working with the idea that I have 100 points, and depending on how they complete the work, I start taking out rather than adding. And I know that we have the bonus question that sometimes when I go into it, and I don't try to use like 89.5, I don't go to that level of madness. So for me is that I have those 6 questions. I might recommend maybe to take out one of these questions so that 5 is easier to manage. That way each question has 20 points. So you have 20 points for the questions. You go, number 1, 20 questions, answer, okay, 20, 20, 20. So you add up. Sometimes they miss one, well, that's 80 points. The bonus questions, 10 points, that's 90. So that's more or less how I used to grade the exercises. I don't go into answering all those questions is that 89 or 85. That will be crazy. The grading will be good for them for the final grade they get from the entire exercise. So if they get from 90 to 100, that means that it's excellence. But that 90 or 100 comes from those 5 questions and how I grade each one of those. So each one of them will have 20 points. The bonus question is more valuable when they're having challenges and they see maybe they got 70 points. So the bonus question will be, okay, that's an extra 5 points. So I'll add into that. I give them the benefit of the doubt for that. So that's a good point. I'll review these questions to make sure we only have 5, not 6. So that's easier to grade. So it's 20, 20, 20. Maybe one is kind of weak. You say, no, that's a 10. So that's my range. It's either you got it right, that's 20 points. It's kind of weak, it's 10 points. You barely answer it, you just put out an answer saying yes, that is, or 1, that's 5 points. And sometimes that's what I do, and at the end you get the 85 or the 95 type of final grade for the exercise. The forums are much straightforward. It's that, yes, it's a good answer. It's just only one question, one answer, and that's the one that will get the grade. When they do the comments most of the time I rate them with a 3. Because the system doesn't add up the numbers, it only takes the highest rating. So if they have a forum answer and it's kind of good, you tell them, yeah, that was good. It's not bad. Their feedback or comments, and they do a very good comment on somebody's answer and it's very good, then you give them the 4 stars. Then the system will take the 4, not the 3. It doesn't even create an average of those. So you always take the highest one. That's an easier way for you to remember that when you're reviewing the forums, you start, most of the time you're going to give people very good. Maybe out of the 20 people, 2 or 3 will be excellent. It's going to be pretty obvious to everybody that they got a very answer, because a lot of people will be providing a lot of feedback as well, saying, oh, thank you very much, that was a good answer, that was a good feedback. That is a kind of an answer that has a 5. But again, the system will only take the highest number, and that will be going into their records. But on the exercises, it's at the end, it's going to be that range, whatever you pick based on the numbers that you get, and after reviewing, if they get an 85 or a 95, I usually try to manage within those ranges. I don't use an 89, for example. So it's 90, 95, 100, 80, 85, 70, 75. And everything below that, when I see at 65 or 40, is because maybe they only answered 2 questions and they only got 40 points. And that's what I will give them. So this is just to give them an idea of where it's going to be their courses. But I'm going to give you a better description for instructors and how to rate that. So I'll develop a small document of what I just said, so we can have something on record that then people can use in the courses. But it's a great comment. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Christina. Yes, right, 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 right. That is the purpose of the second phase of this training. When we go live, I'm going to be next to you. Suppose you are the facilitator who's been selected to do the next training. I'm going to be next to you, and we're going to do this work together. So we're gonna download a couple of exercises, and I'm gonna tell you from my experience what is a good answer and what is not a good answer, because a lot of that is reading between the lines and how people are explaining the concept. There is a rubric on how to rate exercises, but it's not specific to that question. So it's a general rubric. Yes, they are able to use the language. They are able to complete. The answer has 100 words, for example. That's somebody who took the time to make sure that they have read a paragraph with 100 words. So those are some of the key characteristics. But is the answer correct? So that is the one that it's part of your experience of learning and managing projects for years and years, and 25 years of experience in projects, that says, yeah, they get it. They know I know what they are trying to say, and then you give them the 20 points. If they're struggling, they do more of paste and copy from a document, I give them 10 points, and I let them know in the feedback. But don't worry, we're gonna build that. Remember that this is a 2-phase process in this training. Right now, it's a little bit more about the structure and the content that we have. The hands-on practice, that is where we're going to be actually developing a lot of those common elements that everybody will be able to do that. And out of that second phase that we have, you're going to find that it's a lot of what we did here, we're going to start applying, and there are going to be those nuances in terms of how I make that difference between an 80 or a 90. And it's going to become much easier. Okay, I think we have the time now, and we'll see you tomorrow at the same time on the same channel. That way we can complete our first phase of the trainers. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.